Oh my goodness. It's another episode of Flipping Houses for Rookies.
OMG.
Here we are, episode number 342. How are you this morning, Pita?
Doing fine. And you?
I'm well. So today's title is New Extraordinary Creative Real Estate Script Results. Ta-da!
Well, all right, there we go. Script. We're talking about script again.
Yeah, well, we're talking about the script, the hottest script we have.
Wow.
Here is the description. Ready?
Yes, sir.
Why is it that famous dance pop singer Robin Raina Fenty shut down Twitter for 3 minutes during the 2003 Super Bowl halftime? Better question, why are her songs like Good Girls Gone Bad and Umbrella still being sung by millions of fans, even though they were released in 2007? The same with Rated R in 2009, Loud in 2010, Talk That Talk in 2011, Unapologetic in 2012. The funny thing about most want-to-be real estate investors is they think they need a formal education to be a formal real estate education to be successful. But the irony is that truly successful creative millionaires know that working on what you to say to sellers is not a one-time process. And this one developed skill is what made them millions and millions in real estate. Just like Robin Raina Fenty knows the lines to her songs and has sold over 250 million records worldwide, you need to know your lines. And today we are going to cover in detail how to have the perfect things to say without using an old-fashioned script or rigid sentences that sellers can knock you off of in 1 second or one sentence. So let's get started.
So I only have one question. How do you know about this lady and her songs and all that when I have no idea what any of those are and I'm the musician in the room? How'd you do that one, huh?
Research.
I guess so, because I never heard of that chick.
I spent the weekend with my 31-year-old and 28-year-old daughters watching the Super Bowl and got a little bit of a knowledge. Sure. They didn't teach me all that, but I went and looked everything up.
Cool.
But usually I would use a movie star. Like if a movie star didn't know their lines, would you watch the movie? Right? But that's a little bit old. Okay, so let's not get into it right now. Let's do a little bit of our housekeeping. So here's what I've done. I did this a bunch of podcasts ago. I put a link in the description that is extremely exciting. I'm giving away things that I normally charge for today because it's apropos to this podcast. And it's not just one thing, it's 3 things.
Wow.
So make sure you go into the description of wherever you're watching this video or you are listening to this video. I'm sorry, listening to this podcast. And get the surprise. Also, if you're listening to us or watching us, make sure you subscribe to wherever you're doing that. And you like us or dislike us, whatever you prefer. And leave us some feedback. Every Thursday morning, 9:30 a.m., which is convenient for us, not for you. We actually, Eastern Standard Time, we live stream this podcast. We do the recording on live stream. So we are live streaming currently to YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. And if you wanted to make comments or be part of the podcast, meaning that you have questions, you can go to any one of those platforms. And however you would communicate in those platforms, you can do that. We will see it on the podcast as soon as you get done typing them and hit enter. The only thing that I say is if you are going to talk about something other than what we're talking about on the podcast, I will not answer you because I don't want to distract the podcast. However, if you want to communicate those things, you can go to WhatsApp Messenger and look for Let's Talk Real Estate. That's our group of free, a bunch of creative real estate investors around the country, and it's free, and we can help you there. Or if you want my individual attention and not want to speak to the group, you go to flippinghousesforrookies.com, and there's a support ticket on the top right side of the page. So there you go. And don't forget to subscribe, and don't forget to, leave us a comment or a review or anything like that, because those are the things that keep us alive with 342 podcasts. Whoa. So I got to say, Peter, I don't know about you, but before I go on here, I'm going to steal a minute. We're already 6 minutes in, but I was kind of like messing around a couple weeks ago with podcasts and stuff. And we have, you and I have done something that I don't think nobody else has done. There's 342 podcasts that are, most of them are about an hour long. We went for a little period there, about 6 or 8 podcasts that people told me that it needed to be 30 minutes long. And I can see how many downloads and stuff, and it went down because we didn't cover as much, because we give a lot of stuff away for free. And it's not, if you're listening to this podcast, the data we're giving you today is not what you need. What you need to do is you need to get into action. That's what you need to do. The data will help you do that, but you should take this stuff and implement it. That's what will get you deals, and that's what will get you your formal education. Yeah. But my point is that I don't think there's anybody else that I know of that I can find. And if you know somebody, then please send me a support ticket, because I'd love to go check their channel out, that has done 342 podcasts on just creative real estate. They do other things. They have guest speakers. They have a whole bunch of other stuff, but it's been just you and I for an hour a week talking about creative real estate.
Hey, we did a batch that was an hour and a half.
For a long time, yeah.
Yeah. But I've seen them like 18 podcasts. That's it. It was fine. Yep. But we just keep it going.
So thank you for being here. Thank you for your support. Thank you for your downloads. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So let's get on to business, to business. Here we go. Start a podcast.
Go.
Fact. If when talking to real estate sellers, you have more great answers than the seller has questions, then you will buy a house. Or a better chance to buy a house.
Yeah.
This fact is so distilled into our community that it is the number one reason for fear paralysis, even paralysis of analysis. Even more pronounced, and as far as I am concerned, the number one reason most millionaires are not made in real estate to date. Because of this fact. If when talking to real estate sellers, you have more great answers than the seller has questions, then you will buy a house. That's what people think. Yeah. The real fact, however, and I say this not because I read a book, not because I've studied something, not because of anything other than, today, I can show you, today I have 2 appointments to talk to people, to talk to rookies about creative real estate, because I do 45-minute free consultations. I had shut it off for a little while and I just turned it back on. Plus, I do coaching for my own group. Plus, I do coaching for another guru that I don't talk about, but he's a pretty big guru. I do coaching with him, not for him. I'm not one of his coaches. Him and I do it together. And I do all the support for Sean, and I do all the support for Creative REI Replay, which is really growing these days. So it's not like, plus I answer all the support tickets for Creative REI Reply and for Flipping Houses for Rookies. So I talk to those people, plus. Okay. So my interaction with students is more than normal. And I'm not saying that to brag. It's just that when I say these things, this is not some cursory statement. This is I can give you names of people that said it.
Yeah, you're not making it up. It's not your opinion. You didn't read it somewhere, but you do all those things. But I know you. You know, I'm with the coaching calls and some of the things you do. You have a lot of connection with real people, talking to other real people. So
and I can see what they're doing on the other side because I do everything face to face. I'm definitely an in your face type of a guy. I do not hide, right? And I confront anything good, bad, or ugly, right? And anyway, so the real fact when I say this, listen to me because this is not some willy-nilly like get your attention. Oh, I'm talking crap. Okay, this is the truth. The real fact, the ability to overcome fear or the fear of rejection is what actually will make you a millionaire in real estate today. The real fact is the ability to overcome the fear of rejection is what will actually make you a millionaire today. It's not that education. It's not knowing what to say. It's not. Eventually, you will get that. Everybody sucks on their first phone call. Everybody sucks on their first 10 phone calls. Everybody sucks on their first 50 phone calls. Being afraid of it and not doing it or not confronting it is what's holding you back. Even better, once you realize that when someone does not understand something, it's a natural instinct to say no.
Right. Yeah.
So people don't want to hear no. And it's like, I want all the no's I can get because that's the roadmap of where my seller is at. You know, so this is kind of a weird picture in my head because I think of Disney World.
Yeah.
I haven't been there in years, but you get this little map, right? Not little, but you get this map so you can guide your way around the park. Oh, I want to go to Space Mountain, or I want to go here, or I want a hot dog, or I want a beer, or I want, you know what I mean? It's like without that map, you're lost. So if you think no is bad, you have it backwards because actually yes is worse. Because people will say yes just to get you off the phone and not really mean it.
You know, that's interesting. I just realized something with the way you're saying that. When somebody says no, you actually start on the track of, well, let's see what his concern is that I can help him with.
What doesn't he understand?
Yeah, or what is he concerned about, or he thinks something different about, and you can clarify. Oh, I see. You know, and then you can find the wedge in. It's almost like you're looking for the crack, you know, to get in something.
Right. So, which is my next paragraph. And if you don't recognize that the real estate seller is saying no most often because they do not understand what you just told them, and you keep going right on past this critical moment, you felt the fear of rejection.
Yep.
I'll say that again. And if you don't recognize that the real estate seller is saying no, most often because they did not understand what you just told them, and you kept going right on past this critical moment, you felt the fear of rejection.
Yeah.
Now you're here, not you, Peter. This listener is here, and you are trying to understand. So even if this is your first podcast, you'll know more today by the end of this podcast than your seller will know.
Yeah.
So you'll say things that they don't understand.
Yeah, and you can't go past that. What you said is really, I learned this some years ago from a friend who helped people and did some sales and found things, ways to help them with whatever. And people will go, meh, 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 meh. And the natural inclination is to avoid it, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like somebody gives you a look like they go like, wow. And you're like, well, let me just keep going. No, you can't. You hit a stumbling block. You have to you have to like do something with it. Or you just left a big rut in the road. You can't.
Now watch this.
Mm,
Ready? That's
mm,
correct. Now watch
mm.
this. See, a negotiation is an effort to bring about an agreement between two or more parties.
Mm-hmm.
Now watch this. You ready?
Yep.
With all parties having the right to veto the idea or the proposed plan.
Mm-hmm.
That includes you.
Duh, yeah.
A negotiation is the effort to bring about an agreement between two or more parties, with all parties having the right to veto the idea or proposed plan. This is how I came up with an unbalanced offer because of this paragraph.
Mm.
An unbalanced offer means the seller wants too much and you can't give it to them.
Yep.
Or it goes the other way. You want to give too little, and the seller doesn't want to do it.
Yeah.
This is what I'm talking about. The negotiating effort will bring about an agreement between two or more parties, with the parties having the right to veto the idea or the proposed plan. By the way, the right to veto is saying no.
Mm-hmm.
Which means most folks listen to me now, think that a seller is saying no, and it's personal to them. And psychological research has established that expectations profoundly influence outcomes.
Yeah.
So if you don't want rejection, of course, rejection is all you will get. Podcast over. No.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you.
All of this is the exact reason our system uses pre-conversation warm-ups, which is most commonly called texting.
Texting.
We used to put advertising out, and people would call us.
Yep.
And it was much simpler back then. For 20 years, I did that.
Yeah.
I put out signs, I put out letters, I put out postcards, I put out, we used to put stickers on gas pumps. I used to have $20 bills folded in half that looked like $20 bills, and we walked through Home Depot and we'd place them on counters, on product, and drop on floors, and and we had people calling us.
Yep.
Nowadays, with technology, we've reversed the system. So we're reaching out to people saying, reaching out to people saying, do you have a house for sale?
Yep.
So with today's demands in life, many have short fuses when talking to strangers.
Well, there's a lot of talking going on.
Or they ignore them. I got to tell you, from just pure experience, during COVID, when the fad with investors was to get an out-of-area owner list, which means the tax bill is mailed to a different address than the property. That's all that an out-of-area owner list means, right? Because of COVID, because there were no for sale by owners, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, for a year and a half, we were shut down. We were in our houses for a year and a half, and nobody wanted anybody in their house to get COVID. So these lists got abused big time, really big time. And texting was abused. So much so that if you are a texter right now, the phone companies like AT&T, T-Mobile, Verizon, the big phone companies have shut us down. They've put spam devices in place so that if you are using certain words, or if you are sending too many texts in a day, I mean, there's all these parameters that most text platforms cannot get past. And I will tell you that I am such a lucky guy, because in creative real estate, in creative REI Reply, we collectively, it was my idea, and then Sean made it possible. We actually use things like Spintack, and we have software that we built that does time releasing, and we have actually gotten our texting back to the 90 percentile range when everybody else is getting shut down. It took us a month to do it, but we actually deliver 90% of our text right now because of the software. It's proprietary to us, but we figured out how to text, right? So it's an amazing thing. But more importantly than that, it's a warm-up. You start a conversation with someone, and if they're an asshole, you know right before you talk to them they're an asshole, and you don't have to talk to them. If they're interested, you know, right? Which is important to do, right?
Yeah, well, I like talking to people. I don't have a problem talking to people. Doesn't mean I'm great at it, but I'm okay doing it, and I can get information, and they talk to me, and the conversation ends pretty friendly. Right. But I really don't want to talk to somebody if he just wants
to blow your head off for texting him.
Yeah, well, not even.
How did you get my phone number? Why are you texting me? I want to back up because I started the story and I didn't finish it.
Oh, go ahead.
One of the things that I noticed during COVID was I would get on the phone, especially with a landlord, and would say, "What's your offer? I have 10 people a day calling me and saying that they want to buy this house. So I want top price because all these people want this house." I mean, they didn't say it that way, but it was close, right?
Oh, hell yeah.
And so me being me, decided one day that I was just pissed off at everybody telling me that. And I said to one guy, I said, "Oh, really? You got 10 people. So what are the other offers?" He went dead silent.
Yeah.
I then went on a campaign myself for probably damn close to a month, but it was many weeks, asking everybody, because I was getting a lot. I mean, it was almost 1-for-1 I was getting that, right? Because I don't just text, as you're aware. We don't just text. If somebody responds to us, we call them. The text is just a response. Unless they say they don't have the house anymore or they sold it or something like that. We call them. The text is just an excuse. So we know it's the right number. We know they have a house for sale. So we just call them. Right? A text is just a verification that they have a house for sale and it is the right phone number. That's all it is, right?
Well, when you look at your phone and text comes in, you can look at it.
Right.
You don't have to talk to anybody. It's innocent. When the phone rings, they don't have to answer it. They have no idea what's going on. So if they have a text first, then you call them. See, I just texted you. Oh, it's you. At least they know who you are.
Yeah. So to get off our script here a little bit, the thing that we have been doing that has been working amazingly is we leave, and you know this because you're doing it with me. we leave a ringless voice message first. And then 30 minutes later, text them. And we tell them in the ringless voicemail that we text them. And because of the ringless voicemail, they call us back because they want to know, like, whatever. And then we text them, and the first text actually filters out. It gives them a chance to opt out of our texting system. So if they don't have a house for sale, they can hit stop all. If it's not the right person, they can hit stop all. So we don't even listen to the messages. And then the second message, which is a day later, is the actual filter. So if they're still talking to us by the third contact, we know they have a house for sale. We'll call them.
Amazing how you have to drop the ladder down to the rungs go lower and lower.
Right.
Like, they don't want to talk to us. Maybe they won't answer our text. Let's send them a voicemail. Hello. It's a voicemail. Like, who is this? It's like 30 seconds. They'll listen to it. At least they know what's going on.
My point is that when I had the out of area owners, right? I found almost 1-for-1 that they had a lot of people texting, especially a lot of virtual assistants.
Yeah.
And no offers.
Yeah.
So I would tell them, well, I have 3 offers for you, or I have an offer for you, or don't you want your offer? And that's how our texting goes. Like, we saw that you had 123 Main Street for sale online. I have an offer for you. Can we talk?
Yep.
Right? Because what most people don't realize is that sellers do not want a sale. They do not want that. What they want is an offer. They want a proposal first. Like that's kind of like saying to your spouse, you went from dating to being on the altar saying "I do." No, you want to be asked. Do you want to marry me?
Yeah.
You want to be asked first. You want to be able to have self-determinism over this deal, right?
Yep.
So people want an offer first. They want the proposal first.
Well, they have to have some numbers to compare. If they take the first offer and just sell it, that could be terrible. So they want to. That's interesting. If you said that for years, the offer is what they're looking for. Give me a number.
So with today's demands in life, many have short fuses when talking to strangers, which is why we have switched over to not using canned, unpopular rote scripts. Here's why. The scripts are more about the answers than the questions. And most don't understand that. You don't need to, obviously, you need to know what to do on the call. Which the questions are not the trick. It's the answers that are the trick. In other words, you need to know your objective outcome and what it should be. You need to know what information you need and the correct values to make the math in the deal. Right? But that's it as far as scripts goes.
Right.
It's the answers. And everyone is different. Every situation is different. And all answers are different, which is why you're having trouble with scripts, because it's trying to cover all of the scenarios and all of the situations. And they become benign. They become, like not effective. Right? Which is what
you can't write a script that has all the questions that they're going to ask them, because they're going to ask some things in the middle. You go, oh, wait a minute. If he asks that, what do I do? And they can be anywhere. So,
and I for a very long time, I pronounce, like, for example, if you want to understand, if you want to do a training, if you want to understand creative real estate and actually do it for free, for real, go to flippinghousesforrookies.com, go to free stuff. There's a whole page. There's 26 things on there that you get for free. There's documents, there's scripts, there's calculators, there's videos. There's 26 things that you can get for free. The most valuable thing on there is called the lease option explained. It's 5 pages. If you were to download that document, that 5-page document, and you were to handwrite it 10 times, and then read it in your cell phone, like your recording device on your cell phone, read it into your cell phone and listen to that 10 or 20 times while you're working and throughout the next couple of weeks. You will brainwash yourself on what to say to a seller. There is nothing more you need to do than that. Just do that for the next 2 weeks and you'll be better at it than I am. Right? So everyone is different, and you'll be able to answer those questions, because in the document are question and answers that we've heard most frequently. Yeah. So you're going to be able to have the answers, and you're going to be shocked, because if you do what I ask you to do right now, you don't need a $30,000, $50,000 coaching program. You just need to go do what I just told you. Right? But you'll be shocked, because one day you'll be on the phone and the seller will say blah, 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 and it will just come out of your mouth, and you'll be saying, I didn't even know I knew this. I can't even believe I'm saying this.
Yeah. Right? The analogy to that is football, sports people, musicians, artists, they practice their craft. So when something happens, they're ready to go.
Right.
So the answers are just there.
You remember when we were kids, you go to the nightclub, 10 o'clock at night, and there was a line out front. Do you remember that? I don't know if they still do that or not.
Well, I'm sorry. I used to get there at 6, set up, stand on stage, and wait for them to come in. You got to remember you're talking to here.
But you're aware of the line out front, right?
Yeah, they come.
So the line to get in at 10 o'clock at night has velvet ropes, right?
Yep.
So they know how to get into the concert or how to get into the nightclub, right?
You got to
So-
get past that guy at the door.
Right. So that's why I say which is so everyone has different answers, everyone has different ideas, they have different questions, right? Which is why I'd rather teach you how to stay inside the velvet ropes during the conversation instead of giving you every detail, every word, every last possible thing that might happen. That's old school and has you studying for years and not making your millions.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in podcasts, I've told you, in past podcasts, I've told you that there's 4 things you need to do on the call. And so what I'm doing is I'm reverse engineering this because every successful call, how do you know that you have a successful call? What is the definition of a successful call? So I'll tell you right now.
Mm-hmm.
Your seller signs a memorandum.
Yeah.
It's a non-legal document that they can back out of. But the psychology of signing something that you both agreed on in writing makes the seller feel like they have a deal. And that memorandum has on it data. And the data is the price that you agreed on, the payments that you agreed on, the duration that you agreed on, and a deposit if they asked for one. So all we're doing is reverse engineering. You know you need those 4 things to make a deal. That's all you need. Those are the velvet ropes. So I'm gonna go over our script that we're using right now in a couple minutes, and it's going to be the rest of the podcast. We're going to spend a half an hour doing this.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But today I want to fill in those gaps so you know where your velvet ropes are to get into the show.
Mm.
Right? Because I say you get the price, you get the payment, you get the duration, you get the down payment. Well, how do you do that? Because I've been saying this for dozens and dozens of podcasts. So how do you do that? What are the questions? How do you do this comfortably?
Yeah.
And my belief is that you have an outline of what I'm going to show you, which if you it's in the description. I put it in the link today, right? The only place you can get this stuff that I'm giving you today is if you go sign up for Creative REI Replay for lots of money.
Mm.
Okay. So before we start, the script is designed for a one-man gang.
Solo.
OMG, one-man gang.
Oh, okay. You got a new one.
Right.
OMG.
Well, that's the name of an SEO company. It's called OMG SEO. It's one-man gang. So I stole it from them.
Okay.
Anyways, so you need to learn it at first before passing it on to others. That's the first thing I want to tell you. Like a VA or a virtual assistant or something like that, right? Which can be done in a short period if you don't let your feelings and uneducated thoughts get in the way. Uneducated thoughts.
Yeah,
Like,
I heard that.
what you think the seller's going to say? No.
Or how about this? What you hope that he says? Forget it. Just take what he says. You can't play the game. I hope this happens. Hope that happens. No, this is what he's going to do. What he's going to do.
I learned this from my friend Tabucky Jones, who used to play for the Patriots. He's an NFL Super Bowl. He's got the ring winner, right? Mm-hmm. And just by listening to him talk, I learned something about these guys that I never knew. Okay. And it's not, I mean, he will dispute this. If he listens to this podcast, he'll rip my head off. But these guys learn everything they know because of one thing. It's called the video.
The video.
They watch the opposition teams plays over and over and over and over and over as if they were on that team and knew what they were going to do. Yeah. Then they go on the field and they practice. If they do this, if they do that, if they do this, here's what we are going to do. That's how you win an NFL game. That's how you do anything.
But that makes so much sense, you know?
So if you don't know what your opponent, aka the seller, is going to do, how are you going to study your play? How are you going to know how to respond?
Mm-hmm.
You think you're clever enough to come up? I've made thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of calls over 25 years. I still make calls. I sit down, I could make 15 calls in an afternoon. Right?
Yeah.
I never know what the seller's going to tell me. I have heard more stories about things. I've heard about houses, I've heard about finances, I've heard about sex, I've heard about drugs, I've heard about jail, I've heard about thieves, you just name it. I've heard it all.
Mm-hmm.
Because people just tell you.
Yeah.
Right? But the reason why, and this is the punchline before we get into the script, here is the reason why. My conversation is conversational. I am interested in them and what they want and what their play is.
Mm.
Just like to Bucky Jones watching, or the Patriots watching their opponents' videos. So they can predict with what's going to happen. And I promise you, if you're listening to me right now, if you do this for a month, you talk to 5 or 10 sellers, and then 50 sellers, and then 100 sellers. The more you talk to them, the more you will hear the same things over and over and over again, and they will not shock you. They will not knock you off your pedestal. They will not. You'll be ready for them. You'll get to a point where you'll be like in your own mind, well, give me something I haven't heard before, because otherwise it's boring.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
So here we go. Are you ready?
Yes, sir. Let's go for it.
The script. So we start off with question number 1. Is the house still for sale?
Mm-hmm.
Or do you have a house for sale?
Yeah.
Why did we ask that question?
Well, it might. First of all, if it's out of area owner, it may not be for sale. So you want to ask, is it for sale? But even if you see for sale by owner, somebody answers the phone. What if that's not the guy who's selling it? What if he's not the one who makes the decision? You got to get that guy, not the cousin or the wife or the husband or the son.
We're going to do that. We haven't gotten that point. We're going to do that next. But is the house for sale?
Mm-hmm.
Well, actually, it was for sale, and the listing expired, but my realtor just brought me a deal a week after it expired.
Mm.
So I have a contract.
Yeah.
Is the house still for sale? No, we actually found a good tenant. We're going to keep it.
Yeah.
Is the house still for sale? Well, yeah, if I get $200,000, it is, and it's worth $150,000.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So that kind of stuff. You're asking if it's for sale because you want to pre-qualify, and I don't mean pre-qualify. That's ugly words. What I want to do is I want to get your winning rate increased.
Yeah.
What I want to do is I want to make sure that you're in the right room with the right person to start with, because you're already fighting the demons of not knowing. Right? I wrote something down in my notebook. I heard this on a movie the other day.
You know, what's interesting about the answers you just gave, it wasn't just yes or no. They gave you some information like, no, I want to wait till the spring, or no, we're going to keep it for another year, but they're telling you something because you're having a conversation. It's not just yes, no. There's some info you get that'll help.
So I've been watching the series because my daughter hooked me up with Paramount Plus. I've been watching the series because I want to watch Yellowstone, because I have more people that tell me that I should watch that.
Oh, that's great.
But before I watch that, I want to watch 1883. So I've been watching on my own without my wife. And I forgot the lead actor, the guy with the white hair. I forgot his name.
Harrison Ford?
Yeah. No, is that?
Well, there's him.
No.
I know the other one. I know. He's the other.
Anyways, he says this, and it's apropos to what we're talking about. The most terrifying thing on this planet is the unknown.
Yeah.
The most terrifying thing on this planet is the unknown. Okay. So
Yeah.
there you go. So you don't know, right? So you have to find out. So this is the Aristotelical, am I saying that right?
Oh boy, Aristotle. It could be Aristotelian. Ouch.
Yeah, it's
Aristotelian.
asking questions to find out what's going on.
Right. Instead of just, he should teach by, instead of just telling people stuff, he'd ask questions so you would figure it out. I do that. You just ask questions and you find things out.
So number one, is the house for sale? They say yes. Okay, whose name is on the deed? Is it yours? Now what that does is it tells you, like you said before, because we would get into 20-minute conversations and find out, oh, I'm just getting information from my mom. She actually owns the house. And you just wasted 20 minutes. Not that you wasted 20 minutes because it's good for you to talk to, but here, think about what I'm telling you now. This is very profound what I'm doing for you, right, for everybody right now, because this is coaching material. This is like a coaching call right now.
Yeah.
Okay. So what would happen if you spoke to somebody for 30 minutes and they said to you, well, it's my mother's house. It's not mine. Are you talking to a seller?
No.
So you just experienced 30 minutes of somebody else's crap that you think you need to understand or learn or handle objections on, and that person doesn't even own the house. You're not talking to a seller. That's like calling up your plumber and asking him electrical questions.
Yeah.
Because you have an outlet or a light that doesn't work and you call your plumber.
Yeah.
So it's going to screw up your own psychology because you're not talking to the right person and you're trying to learn and you're learning from the wrong public.
Yep.
Number two, how much are you asking for the house? This is a natural conversation, right? You can memorize this. How much are you asking for the house?
And you're saying asking. It's not how much is the house. Right. It's asking, because asking can move around. Is might get stuck. That is the price. Asking is an important word there.
Now, I vary from the script, and I'm going to show you how in a minute. Right? But I'm on the script that's in the chat. I'm going to give you 3 things to do if you so desire. Like, for example, how much you asking for the house? $200,000. Okay, how did you arrive at that number? Well, the guy down the street sold the house for $200,000. Okay. Now, what I do before I go in, because I have Creative REI Replay, I go on and I click a button and I look at Zillow. I don't do anything more than that to begin with. I don't worry about the prices. I do that once I get the memorandum signed, my due diligence done in the deal meeting after I have the motivation of the seller under wraps. I'm not going to go do my due diligence and spend a lot of time on it if I'm not going to make a deal.
Yep.
So if I'm on Zillow and it says it's worth $200,000, I'm okay. But if it's worth 120 and he's asking 200,000, I'm going to want to say, how did you arrive at that number?
Right.
And then I'm going to find out, well, it's got 13 acres, or he just did $100,000 renovation, or, spaceships land on the landing pad out back, or, the president of the United States lives next door, or, there's a CIA huddle, underground hut in the backyard. I mean, there's all different kinds of stories, right?
Yeah. So it could be worth it.
Right.
So you just ask.
So how much you asking for the house? If it's a ridiculous number, I'll ask, how did you arrive at that number? If it's within reason, I'm going to tell you what to do in a minute. The other thing is, you could say, find out why they decided to sell now. So I'm asking 200,000. Okay, well, how did you arrive at that number? Well, blah, 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 blah. Okay, well, what made you to decide to sell today? Like, what's going on? And this will give you the situation. Now, there's only 2 situations. So this is where I make it simple. There's only 2 situations.
Yep.
One is need, one is greed.
Yep.
Need means there's something going on with the house and they want to get rid of it. Like, I bought another house and I'm stuck with this house. It's vacant. I don't want the house anymore, but I've got 2 payments.
Yeah.
I'm getting a divorce. I don't want to cut the grass anymore. My wife, we have this house. This is her family house, and her mom died, and now we have this house, and I'm stuck with taking care of it. I got to go over there every week, and it's a 2-hour ride there and back.
Mm-hmm.
There's all kinds of reasons, right? Greed means that they need the money for something else other than the house. So it's a savings account for them.
Yeah.
So they're going to go get their $100,000 worth of equity because they want to blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
So when you ask, find out why they decided to sell now, it's going to be in a need bucket or a greed bucket. If it's a need bucket, you're going to go on to the next question. But before I go on to the next question, I'm going to explain to you if it's a greed bucket. Actually, let's do that first. If it's a greed bucket, you simply say to them, which is very uncomfortable for you, but once you do it a few times and you realize they answer the question every time, you'll stop being nervous.
Mm-hmm.
What were you planning to do with the money once you got it?
Mm-hmm.
If it's a greed question. Oh, I needed to buy another house.
Yeah.
So within 3 to 4 minutes, you have gotten all the information you need on whether you should continue this phone call or not.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if it's a need, we're going to move on. So, how much you asking for this house? The derivative questions are going to be: how did you arrive at that number? Find out. B. That's A. B is find out what they decided to sell. Find out why they decided to sell now. And C is if they say money, ask them how much they were planning to get out of the closing once everything's done, which I skipped, and then ask them, what were you planning on doing with the money once you got it? Mm-hmm. Now, this is an insidious thing that we're doing here. Insidious means it's hidden, and it's not derogatory, right? Because we used to ask, how much is your mortgage? But if we say to them, ask them, how much were you planning to get out of the house once everything is done? And they're asking $200,000, and they're like, oh, I plan on getting $50,000. That means that they probably owe between $125 and $150.
Yep.
And they're rounding the numbers up because that's how much they want to get. So that's why it's insidious. That's why it's a little bit backhanded, because if you ask them how much were they planning to get out of the closing, they're going to tell you a number, and then you know how much they owe.
Yep.
Okay.
Makes sense. Mm-hmm.
So let's back up. How much were you asking for the house? $200,000. Okay. So it's worth $200,000. It's about that ballpark. You're not going to get into it a little bit because there's nothing strange. There's nothing unusual, and you could just go quick like I do. Okay, so for me to pay $200,000, the only way I can do that is if I make payments. Can we talk about how that works? Okay. So you just qualified them for a creative real estate deals within 3 minutes of the phone call.
Right. Bill, so that last thing you said was really, really important. Can we talk about that? So listeners, these little tiny things, you think that's just like to add words. Can we talk about it? That's huge. It's not just go into it. You're getting his permission to talk about it so you can have a conversation.
Realize these words are not words that I made up. These are words that have the most amount of common responses. In other words, when I ask these exact words in the exact way I'm telling you, I always, 80% of the time, I got the exact right answer I needed.
Yeah.
The most amount of people answered me correctly. That's why these questions are so important. It's time tested. It's proven over hundreds and hundreds of phone calls.
Right. But I feel something built into that continues to make the conversation willing on the other person's part. You're not shoving things down their throat. Like, do you have a couple minutes to talk? Yes. Good. He just said he'll talk to you for a couple of minutes. Can we talk about that? He said he'll talk to you about that. So
I should put that. I should put that in the script because I do that every phone call. Can we talk? You got a couple of minutes? We can chat about it.
Yeah,
that's the first thing I say.
I see that in there. Like, can we talk about it? It's when I read your script, it's there. It's important, and you can miss that stuff. I just want to, as like the foil here.
We need to move on. Yep. So
Yeah.
the foil here, I want to know what that means because I was told the other day that I was the foil. So I want to know what that means. So anyways, we'll get back to that. All right. So, well, the way I can pay 200 grand for the property is to give you monthly payments until I get it paid off. Is it possible we could talk about how that works? If they say yes, you say, what I do is specialize in selling to folks who normally couldn't qualify for a mortgage, which is about 80% of all buyers, and sell them on our lease to purchase program. They are responsible for all the repairs and maintenance. Think of this. When someone rents a car, are they going to change the oil, wash it, tune it up, change tires, etc.?
Mhm.
No, right?
Mhm.
But if they own the car, they will wash it, they'll tune it up, and they'll change the tires. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
This particular buyer knows they are going to own the house, so they take care of it. Does that make sense?
Mm.
Good. How much were you thinking about a monthly payment if we cover the maintenance and all the repairs? Now, I do this a little bit different because I get their agreement, and you don't have to use this script. These are just guidelines. This is the velvet rope, right? Okay, so if they say yes, that they want to talk about it, I will say to them, well, how much are your monthly payments now? And they'll say, well, it's $1,310. Perfect. That's how much I'll pay.
Yeah.
And 98% of them will say, okay.
That's really smart.
Right. All right. So now remember, we're the first 3 or 4 minutes in this phone conversation. This does not take long.
Nope.
Right? Because we asked, let's start over again. We asked, do you have time to talk? Is the house still for sale? Whose name is on the deed? How much you asking for the house? And because they're saying they want 200,000, well, the only way I could pay 200,000 without any fees or any cost to you, right, is if I make monthly payments until I pay it off. Can we talk about that?
Mm-hmm.
That's 3 to 5 minutes, if that. If you're doing longer than that, you need to practice. Okay. If they say no to payments, because most will, remember, they say no because they don't understand it.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. And this is what your response is. They say no to payments. Oh, I don't want any payments. I just want to sell it. Okay. I understand. You want all your cash at closing. What do you think your best price is?
Mm-hmm.
You need to get at least 10%. I prefer 15% to 30% discount.
Yep.
Folks, listen to me loudly. Please listen to me loudly. This is like kindergarten stuff. Don't get hung up on getting this discount. Here is the reason why. If they sell a house the way they think they can sell a house by getting a realtor or on their own, they are going to have between a 12 and 15% closing cost in the transaction.
Yeah.
There's no way around it. Even if they think it's only just whatever the realtor costs. They have no idea that there's negotiating. They have no idea that there's repairs, even if the house is pretty, because the inspector will knock them around. They have no idea that there's conveyance tax and property taxes,
adjustments,
proration.
Yeah.
They have they're not thinking of their lawyer. They're just thinking, well, I got to pay my realtor 6% and pay my lawyer $800. That's what they think.
Yeah.
Not true. I've done hundreds and hundreds of closings. You are not getting away with less than 10%. Absolutely, positively, absolutely. If you're a genius, you're going to pay at least 8%.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so getting a 10 to 15% discount is hands down, because they're gonna, if they figure out their cost to sell, which we have done with them, we will do with them.
Yep.
We're not going to cover that today, right? We will do with them. Maybe we'll do that next week in the podcast. We'll go over the cost to sell. Mm-hmm. So if we do that with them, go over the cost to sell, they'll realize that they're netting the same amount of money. Now realize that a for sale by owner is a for sale by owner because they don't want to pay the fees. They want all the money.
Yep.
So a for sale by owner is a misnomer because they think they're going to get all the money. Problem is they don't know how to do the work to get all the money. See, a lot of those costs we're going to absorb by doing the work ourselves, like doing the realtor work and doing all that stuff, or we're going to pass it on to our buyer.
Yep.
So we tell them that. We tell them that we're going to get our buyer to pay the fees, their closing costs.
Mm-hmm.
So it goes something like this, which is not on the script, so you should write this down if you're listening. What's the best you think you can do? Well, I don't know. I can on a $200,000. I could do $195,000. Okay.
Yeah.
I think you misunderstood me. Let me back up for a second. I'm going to get the buyer to pay all your closing costs. I'm talking about a net number to you. You don't have to do anything except just collect the check. Oh, well, in that case, I could probably do $185,000. Right? So those simple words will get you to a net number. Right? If you don't get at least 10%, right, then you don't have a deal. The reason why I say is because if they want all their cash and they're willing to give you at least a 10 or 15% discount, you can actually do an option with them. Sign a 90-day option, bring the house to the market. An option is the right to buy, but not the obligation. So go listen to other podcasts that we have about option agreements. Just go on to flippinghousesforrookies.com/podcast. And there's a search in there, and you could search for option agreements or options, and we have podcasts on that. But the point is this, is you're going to give them $100, we'll say, for consideration deposit, right? Non-refundable consideration deposit. So if you don't sell the house, the only thing you lose is your $100.
Yep.
There's no risk to you at all, right? But this gives you an opportunity for a couple things. If you do an option agreement, and you sell the house, you get the house for $180,000, right? You could sell this house. You could sell this house that's worth $200,000 for $185,000 and get your $5,000 fee. And because you're $15,000 below market value, you're going to get a lot of action because the realtor's going to put it on for $200. Right? And oh yeah, by the way, if they still want to use a realtor, not a problem. As long as you sign the option agreement first,
right,
before the realtor agreement, you tell your seller, well, you can go get a realtor, no problem. Just tell the realtor you have an option with me and that they have to exclude me from their contract. So if I sell it, they don't have to pay a fee.
Yep.
And let the realtor and me sell it for you. And now you got two agents that are selling it for you instead of one. Why wouldn't they do that? It doesn't cost them anything. You're going to get a 90-day agreement. But watch this. When you do this, here's what's going to happen. What you don't realize if you're listening to me right now, unless you've done deals, which most haven't, less than 5% of the people listening to me right now have done deals. I can promise you that. You have no idea how to sell it. You haven't even thought about selling the house yet. You're so worried about buying a house and what to say that you never thought about selling the house.
That's right.
Now, pay attention to me. If you were to sign this option agreement and all of a sudden people started calling you, buyers started calling you, you started saving those that contact information as buyers.
Yeah.
And say you got 50 names on your list. The next time you talk to the seller, you can tell them, well, I have 50 people on my list that I can go to right now and sell this house. How much stronger does that make you?
Right? That's right.
By the way, Creative REI Reply does all this stuff for you. Automatic. It's all push button. And yes, I'm promoting Creative REI Reply because it is the only thing on the market that does everything all in one. It's a business, a creative real estate business in a box. Okay. So step number 4 on this step, if they say they want to take payments and they're only giving you a 10% discount or 15% discount. So you say, okay, so what do you think is the longest period you could take monthly payments before we get it paid off? You're going to go after duration now, right?
Yep.
So if they say only a year or two, you have to do a sandwich lease option transaction, which is like wholesaling a lease option, right?
Yep.
If they say anything more than that, you don't want to do less than 7 years. So it's going to be 2 years, 7 years, 10 years, or more.
Mm-hmm.
Keep those in your head. Those are your velvet ropes. Now, you could do different ones. You could do less and more if you want. But I'm telling you, do 2 years as a slot deal, 7 years as a rent-to-own deal where you stay in the deal and you make money now, money monthly, money later.
That's right.
Okay. If they ask you, if they won't give you time, well, I don't know, what were you thinking? They want you to give the time, the duration first.
Mm-hmm.
You say this. Well, most of our deals are a 30-year plan. But if I absolutely had to, I would go down to maybe 7 years. It's much easier for them to come. They'll want to default into the 7 year. It's much easier to come down from 30 years to 7 years than it is to come from 1 year to 7 years.
That's right.
It changes the whole negotiating pattern.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So at that point, you settle on a favorable term or duration for monthly payments.
Yeah.
Now, only if they ask about down payment. Only if they ask about down payment, you would say, normally, I don't pay down payment money.
Mm-hmm.
But what did you have in mind? Right? Now, if they insist on getting a down payment, here is my rule. You need at least 3% down for an FHA mortgage.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the time, it's 5%. So I ask for 10. When I'm selling, I ask for 10%.
Yep.
I get 5% worth of cash up front, and I get 5% in payments, monthly payments, no interest payments. Okay. But in this particular case, if you're selling a $200,000 house, you know that you're not going to sell this house for less than $6,000 down, which is 3%.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So a $200,000 house times 3% is $6,000. If you absolutely have to give your seller money, you tell them, well, I'm going to get 3% down and I can only give you 50% of that. So the best I could do is $3,000.
Mm-hmm.
See, what happens is when you methodically talk to them like that, it puts your certainty in and it gives you authority. Because it's like, this is how we do it. This is what we do. This is the way it works. And you give it to them, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, but it's based on real things like an FHA mortgage, which they will get later. So the deposit now will count when they get that to that point later on. We're not talking mortgages now, but when they do, it counts. It's 3% for them. It could be 5 or it could be more in some mortgages on bigger house. But you're going off something that's real. You're not making it up, and you're working your way back.
Right. Now, that's why I say when we're selling houses on rent to own, we could do 5 to 10% over the market value. Right? Because we're going to, even if we sold the house for 10% over market value, if we got 10% down, the mortgage amount is going to be the correct amount for the bank, right?
Yeah.
So if we had a $200,000 house and we sold it for $220,000, 10% over, and they gave us 20% down,
yep,
they're mortgaging $200,000, so it will bank qualify in an appraisal.
Right, and that $20,000 you already put down counts toward the bank. Yep, they made a deposit. We have a record of that. They go, yay, they made a deposit.
They bought a house for $220,000. They put down $20,000, and they need to borrow $200,000.
Yep.
Right. Okay, so after that, we get into if they say yes, we're going to verify the price we agreed upon was, the monthly payment we agreed upon was, and the duration is this many months. Is this all right? And if it is, then you're going to send them you're going to fill out the memorandum and you're going to send it to them and get it signed.
Mm-hmm.
Unless, of course, you're in Creative REI Reply. All this is done with a calculator. You put those five or six numbers in there. You push a button. It calculates which one of my 7 deals you're going to use. And you push another button that says save, and it automatically sends them a memorandum, and they sign it while you're on the phone.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
If there's some variation in the house that it may be worth more or less than that because of maybe it's more banged up, you're not sure because you haven't seen it, or it could be worth more because it's more fixed up. At what point do you do a little more due diligence to get a more tight number on the memorandum right after?
That's a good question. I want to leave because we're 4 minutes after, but that's a good question.
Yeah.
The question is answered this way. Who signed the agreement?
They did.
Did you sign it?
No.
So,
So I
is
know
there
it's not legally
so
binding.
hang on.
Yeah.
So is there room to renegotiate?
No, absolutely. I guess I'm asking because are you a better negotiator if you get the numbers a little better now, or just wait and redo it later?
Yeah, so this whole process is everything that we talked about is all about the motivation of the seller.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Then when we go out, and now once we get the memorandum, we're going to kick off the deal meeting. And the deal meeting is where you go qualify the house, the price, the dysfunction, the repairs. And if it has all that and the seller didn't tell you, you go back and you retrade by saying, well, you didn't tell me that the kitchen isn't there.
Mm-hmm.
Like, remember one time we looked at a house? Were you with me? We
Yeah.
looked at we looked
Watertown.
at a house.
Didn't have a kitchen yet.
Yeah. Or one time I looked at a house and the kitchen was in the basement and not on the first floor because that's what the woman wanted. So it was a ranch. It was a raised ranch, and upstairs was just all living space, and she cooked downstairs because of her heritage, where she came from. They cooked,
Italian
in another room. Yeah, in
Italian.
another room, right? Yeah. And the upstairs was the entertaining room, and that's where the bedroom was.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. You can redo it after you see the house if anything changes. Just don't stop the flow. Let it go, and then later.
What you're looking for is a motivated seller, and if you do this correctly, you will find out within the first 5 minutes if they are motivated. If they're not, you whack them. Yeah. Because technically what you're looking for is suspects. You're looking for all the people that don't want to do this. And you're going to find them quickly and get rid of them. Because sooner or later, just like oil and water, the oil will rise to the top and that prospect will show up and you'll be ready for them. Yeah. So we know that 97% of the people don't want to do creative real estate the way we want it. They don't want to take payments. They don't want to do any of this. Mm-hmm. So this script I just told you pre-screens, and I hate that word, but pre-screens or pre-qualifies, or it finds the ones that don't want to do it so that you can weed through all those people and find the guy that does or the girl that does.
Yeah, yeah.
And you do it quickly. So if you make 25 phone calls a week doing just that, you'll have a deal within a few weeks or a month.
Yeah. I can be a talker, you know me, but I timed myself. The last one did 4 minutes, 49 seconds. I knew what I was doing in the conversation. And it was like, thank you. It was thank you very much too, by the way.
Right.
You have a good day. It was very polite and they weren't annoyed at all.
Yeah, because you're getting right down to business. You're finding out if you just tell them you don't qualify for my program. I'm sorry. If you change your mind, let me know.
Oh, thank you very much.
And then we put them into our 90-day and 60-day, our 90-day, our 3-month and 6-month follow-up because time changes everything.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
All right, cool. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that today. I think, I don't know if I'm going to do it, but maybe next week we'll do the cost to sell worksheet because we actually have a worksheet that we use. So maybe I'll share that.
We haven't talked about it in a while.
Yeah, I'll have to see about that. I don't want to distract you from what I just taught you today. So coaching session over, the free one. Okay. I'll make sure you go into the link. Make sure you go into the description and get your link because what I just went over is there, as well as my paper calculator, as well as the memorandum.
Mm-hmm.
It's all there. One document. Okay. So please subscribe or please leave us a comment. And make sure that you, if you have questions, you come at 9:30 on Thursday morning, Eastern Standard Time when we're recording, and we will gladly answer all your questions. Okay? Thank you for all of your support. If you want anything, just go to flippinghousesforrookies.com. It's all there. Over and out. Have a good week.